Welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome to the American Muscle Series Season 8, Round 6. And we are live here at Circuit Zandvoort. We're going Dutch tonight, and we are only 40 minutes away from the halfway point of this season. And there is all sorts of action going on in the point standings. We have the return of a champion. We have a very heated battle for the pro division, for the challenger division, and we're seeing some amateurs step up their game this season like we haven't seen before. My name is Randall McGrew. I am joined in the commentary booth by Andre Grandbouche, and in the production trailer we have Joshua Wilkie. Andre, a Dutch F1 track, Mustangs, what an odd combo.
It is an odd combo, and this is a bit of an odd track. It does have the most banking out of any Formula One track. There's a couple corners that are pretty high banked, something reminiscent you'd see in stock car racing, not so much sports cars or open wheels. So fun section of the track there, and then got a couple tight hairpins. It's just a fun track. I'll be real with you. I've driven this track in a few games, and it doesn't matter if it's Forza, doesn't matter if it's F1, doesn't matter if it's iRacing. I just have a blast navigating this track. Question is, how fun is it going to be for these guys with 40 plus Mustangs?
Absolutely correct. This, no matter which sim or game you drive, this track presents unique challenges. One of those unique challenges is going to be the exit of the chicane, where in practice there was basically a second gravel pit on the outside of this corner that you're about to see Chuck Labano go through right here. Once we get into the race, you'll see off the racing line is going to be a ton of gravel. But before we get any further, let's take a look at our championship point standing, something we keep getting wrong and keep forgetting to do. We have points. Let's get them up there. Everybody to see that pro division. Who's leading the way? Well, I think you know who's leading the way. None other than last season's champion. Jack Sanchez has a commanding lead right now. We don't calculate drop weeks yet. Next week, or not next week, next race in 2 weeks time, when you see these points, we will be calculating in drop weeks. So you'll see some of these gaps get a little bit tighter. But currently, Jack Sanchez leading the way with 249 points over Luke Sudengay with 203, Jay Bass with 202, Luis Henriquez with 201. So that battle for the podium is hot and heavy in the pro division. Then we're going to jump over to the challenger division. One of the most exciting action-packed races you're going to see every week is that challenger division race. And leading the way right now with a pretty hefty lead is Ryan Campbell. Behind him, Matt Thompson with 183 points. Levi Powell got his foot on the bottom step of that podium for now, but Aaron Bray looking to close that gap down, just 3 points behind. And there's been a lot of shaking up in this division, a lot of inconsistency. So it's going to come down to who can run the most consistent season so far. It's been Ryan Campbell. Now we're going to jump over to that amateur division where we're going to see none other than Dave Blair with a 30-point lead over Tom Went. Dave Blair has been absolutely cleaning up in the amateur division this season, and he leads over Tom Went. Freddie Weaver in third place, Sean Johnson and Eli Clough rounding out the top 5 in that division, and none of them are very far away, especially once we start calculating these drops in. So keep an eye on these points. It's going to get hot and heavy and heated and elbows out for the rest of the season as they scrape and claw their way to try to get up that leaderboard. We join the cars. They are in qualifying right now. Currently leading the way on the leaderboard is none other than Luis Henriquez. Correction. It was Luke Sudengay for a second. Now it's Luis Henriquez again with a 150-124. So flirting with that 150 barrier. We're going to go on a flying lap here with Jeff Schnackle in the challenger division. As he comes up, he's sticking to the left, get a late turn in here to Tarzan turn, and then he's going to let it go out and use all of that exit curve to his advantage. He's going to keep the car to the left, and then quick downshift into through turn 3, and then here's that high bank corner where you're going to see them run the high line like they're going around Bristol instead of going around the shorter line. The higher line is faster because it has more banking. And then this winding section as they climb the hill, and a very much blind over the crest right-hander that's going to fall away, and they're going to have to pick their brake mark. And look at how much wheel he's given that car, just trying to keep it wrangled as he comes down the hill. And then a very, very fast right-hander where they're going to hit a lot of this curb, let the car drift back out, try to make a straight brake zone here as much as you can, bring that car down and clip that apex as best as you can. Bring the car back to the right. We're gonna have a long sweeping left-hander where you're gonna see maybe some really courageous passes go. You see a big handful of opposite lockout of Schnackle there. Really struggling to get the power down. Track temperature not that high, but they are struggling with rear end grip as they come in to the infamous chicane. You're gonna eat that curb as much as possible and then ride around on almost like a carousel with the banking. And if you get offline, and we see another big snap of oversteer, they've been really struggling with the exit of that corner, and there's no gravel down. Here in a couple minutes, that gravel is going to start seeping its way onto the track as the drivers make their way through there in anger, in traffic, and you're going to see a lot more struggling with that oversteer on the exit. He makes his way through Ari Lyondike corner, the final corner of the track, easily flat out down the start-finish straight, and sets his lap time. We'll see how good that does for him. He was 11th before. Looks like he's 11th now, not able to improve. Andre, what do you think is going to be the biggest challenge for these drivers tonight?
Well, there's a few things. I think that bank corner is going to be a bit of a challenge just because the car corners so well with that banking, and it's going to make them very confident, which kind of lures you and tempts you into overdriving that corner and just pushing the car a little bit too far. And if you do, well, that banking flattens out real quick. So you got to be careful through that section. And then you mentioned the chicane, the exit to the chicane. That is going to be a tough spot as well. But really, I think that overall, the track should produce some really good racing. These drivers shouldn't have too much of a challenge on their plate as far as track navigation. It's just going to be a game of navigating the other cars. And we had a very clean race last week, surprisingly clean. And hopefully, we can go for 2 for 2 here.
As we have just about a minute left in qualifying, we have a new name at the top of the leaderboard. Taylor Ballant breaks through the 1 minute 50 barrier. The first time we've seen that, even in practice, they weren't able to go that fast. Jack Sanchez getting very, very close to that time as well. Not very much slower than Taylor right now. Luke Sudengay in third. Luis Enriquez. We're watching Neil Kemp, who's in seventh. We're going to jump back to Jay Bass, who's back in 18th. Some of these drivers are really struggling to find the grip here and come to terms with the layout of this track. It's a very, very tricky track without having a lot of downforce. As we see there, our friend Taco Phil Keck. And let me find it. Where is that bong? There it is. Taco Phil's back with us this week, currently running 19th. And we're seeing these are the last laps these drivers get to set as he crosses the line, not able to improve his position. Right now, it looks mostly like the second lap was probably the fastest lap for most of these drivers. See, we watch Mark Royce going to complete his final lap. He's all the way down to 30th, so he's looking for a big improvement here. Does he get it? No, he's not able to improve. So seeing some drivers that are normally up towards the top 15 finding themselves mired way back in the pack.
And, it's kind of expected. Again, this is not a very traditional road course. There are some obstacles that these guys might not be used to. And whenever we go to a track that deviates from the norm, it does shake up the running order a little bit because some drivers who have certain talents that might not be able to shine on other tracks, well, they come here, those talents show through, they work their way up the grid. So with qualifying complete, I do believe we have the starting order. It is going to be Taylor Ballant. In that 21 machine, he is on the pole. Jack Sanchez is going to be P2. Luke Sudengay. I'm never going to stop doing that. Luke Sudengay, P3. Luis Enriquez is going to be row 2 outside. Row 3 going to be Evan Hoopchak and David Moore. 7 and 8 going to Neil Kemp and David Finch. P9 goes to Andrew Bailing and Chad Sosnowski. Last week making his debut, this week qualifying 10th.
A big improvement for Chad. And in 11th, we have the challenger pole, Jeff Schnackle, and just over a 10th behind him outside. I know you're a truther. Charlie Hosey is starting in P12. P13 is going to see the likes of, survey says, Chuck Labano in 13th, with Matt Thompson, his Frito Sport teammate, starting alongside him in 14th. 15th, also in Frito Sport, Ryan Campbell, your challenger points leader. Kevin Buckles starting in 16th. Fabian Zweyer 17th. Jay Bass in 18th. Phil Keck starting in 19th. Taco Phil Keck. I can't believe I forgot that. Andy Smith is going to round out your top 20.
Looking outside the top 20, we have Ed Santinelli in the 180 machine. It's going to be 21st, Levi Powell, P22. Tom Wendt, well, he went to 23rd. Aaron Bray is going to be 24th. Aaron, that face spray. Matthew Gazenda, going to be P25. Samuel Stoner, 26th. Jeff Andrus, 27. And Brandon Smith is going to be 28th. Running out the top 30, going to be Dehan O'Toole in 29th. Mark Royce in 30th.
31st, Eli Clough with Joe Sacchetti starting in 32nd. Mike Neekum starting 33rd. Jay Little, 34th. Freddie Weaver in 35th. Sean Johnson starting in 36th. 37th position is going to be Scott Brooks. And next to him, currently your points leader for the amateur division, Dave Blair. Stephen Price starting 39th. 40th is somebody from the Adam Thompson fan club. What? No, he's not racing. He's in the commentary booth. That's me. Then John Casey's going to actually start 40th and round out this field. So 40 Mustangs going to take turn 1 in anger. It's going to be a sight to see. We have just over 30 seconds. Final thoughts here before we start, Andre.
I just hope we can get through it clean. Again, it's a big field, over 40 Mustangs, hoping we can get through turn 1 without too much trouble. And if we do, it's going to be a great race. Love this track.
Absolutely. Waiting for the final cars to take to the grid. We'll see those lights go out here in about 15 seconds and get this race underway. 40 minutes away from the halfway point. Who's going to come out on top after this race? You'll have to watch and see. We're waiting now. See the final cars take to the grid. Going to see Barney get that green flag ready to go any moment now. Going to see the lights come on. And then the lights go out. We'll be underway. Taylor Ballant going to lead the pack down to turn 1. Will he have the lead when we get there? Tough to say. They're underway here at Zandvoort. We're seeing some action back in the mid-pack already. Chuck Labano looking to make a move. And who else was that with him? Couldn't tell, but Jack Sanchez gets the launch, and he's going to have the inside line and the lead coming out of turn 1. Luis Enrique is going to be opportunistic and going to get second place. So Taylor Ballant loses 2 spots on the start. He was on the preferred line maybe for rubber buildup, but not for the racing line. Jack Sanchez with the better start, able to get the lead of this race as we see them trying to shake themselves out into single file as they work their way through the first few corners. And we're seeing somebody using, a few people using that lower line. Dehano too, one of them. Eli Clough taking that lower line. So some evasive action going on through the early stages of this track, of this lap, trying to get into single file. Do you really want to get to single file before you go over this hill?
Yeah, you want to get single file. There's a few drivers that were not so fortunate. They are going to have to navigate that too wide, as you see right there. Going into the corner, Charlie Hosey on the bottom. I believe that is Schnackle on the high side. And they still haven't sorted this out. They've gone through a series of corners, neither driver getting an advantage. And now look at this, a little bit of a shot from that purple and green Mustang right behind. They're going to sort it out. Charlie Hosey going to give up that position just barely. And man, oh man, still side by side all throughout the pack. They are struggling to find their position in line, but overall, we still had a very clean lap 1 so far. I've not seen any tire smoke, not seen any issues. And up front, how many times are we going to see this exact same story play out? Randall, it is Jack Sanchez, Luis Henriquez, Taylor Ballant, Luke Sudengay. It's always these 4.
Yeah, it seems like they're the perennial favorites here in the American Muscle Series this season. They have definitely been flexing their muscles in the Pro Division all season long. And as we reach the halfway point, there's a trend that just keeps continuing. We're going to see, from Chuck Labano's point of view, David Finch maybe got a little bit of that outside barrier. Doesn't look like there's much damage on that Mustang ahead, so probably just going to shake him up and not really affect that car too much. But the traffic's still pretty thick in the midfield. Still trying to work themselves out here in the early stages of lap 2. We are expected to see 22 laps tonight. We do see a little bit of cosmetic damage there on the side of Finch's car. He gets a little bit loose coming into that corner. He's going to get a little bit loose coming off of it too. Boy, that lack of camber there on the inside is really catching some of these drivers out. I don't know how many of them practice the opposite line there, but it seems like Finch maybe caught a little bit out by the lack of grip on the rear end.
Yeah, that could have been. We'll go on board. We'll take a look at a bit of a replay here, see what transpired. Keep your eye on that steering wheel. Let's see how much counter input he had to give it out of the corner, up on the curb. Some smoke up ahead of him, or some kitty litter. And he is still following along. Everything seems to be fine. Up and over this hill. Now, that is a big elevation change. It'll get you a little bit unsettled. and he took the bottom lane there. And I gotta wonder, Randall, if the bottom lane just is a little bit slicker. Everybody's been running the top, putting a little bit of rubber down, warming it up, and you got the bottom where nobody's been. He gets a little loose.
Yeah, this car, until recently, actually preferred a green track more than it preferred a rubbered-in track. That's kind of changed a little bit, but it's not been a huge shakeup. But I think it's just the difference in the camber as we're going to see. Ooh, is that Phil Keck getting a little contact with the tire barrier? He's struggling on the exit of the chicane. But it really looked like the previous corner is what set up him having to be on the bottom line there. He missed that apex just before, and it kind of spit him out in the wrong part of the track, and he was just kind of had to live with that bottom line, and he paid the price for it. Luckily, it only cost him a little bit of time. Maybe overheated the tires a little bit, but he's able to carry on. This lead, we have a breakaway in the top 5 here. P6, Neil Kemp is 3 seconds back from the top 5. So we have a 5-car breakaway at the top of the order here. Not really what I expected to see. I do expect a bit of separation here. This is a pretty technical track, but this is very early to see a breakaway like this.
It is pretty early. I can't say that breakaway is going to stay. I think that a lot of this is coming from this battle between Enriquez and Ballant, with them being side by side and fighting. They're just kind of scrapping back here, and they're slowing each other down, and that is allowing Jack Sanchez to sail off into the sunset. But now that they've got it single filed out once again, they might close back in. But I say that, and it's hard to really believe that, because we do know that Jack Sanchez is the class of the field this year. I mean, he has just been phenomenal. It would not be shocking to see him drive away, but we'll see. It could go either way. It's early in the race, and right now, I mean, it seems like throughout the year we've seen a lot of comers and goers throughout the 40 minutes of every race, but the pit sequence, right? We're not even close. We're not even thinking about pitting yet, but it is going to happen at some point. And I feel like there has been a few races that have been determined by pitting, so we'll see how that works out as well. But this pack behind, this is another good battle, starting with Neil Kemp, Evan Hubchak, these boys behind the leaders, Jeff Schnackle, all single file, but they are very close. You see Charlie Hosey in that group as well.
Looks like Santinelli, yeah. Santinelli had a problem there coming off. It looks like he's coming off the chicane, hasn't it? It's got a lot of front end damage. We're gonna get a replay. Maybe he got a little bit of help here. It's tough to say, but it looks like he gets that rear tire into the gravel right as he's getting to the throttle, and the car goes around on him, and he makes heavy impact with that tire barrier. I know those tires are pretty soft compared to the Armco or the concrete barriers, but the way he hit it was not good. I suspect he's going to have some steering damage. You were talking about the pit strategy, though, Andre, and let me break down for the viewers at home. Ooh, it was a big moment there for Jeff Andrus. He has to go offline now. He's forced down to the inside through the high bank corner. He's going to give up the position to a couple drivers. So Mark Roy's going to be able to get by him, Andy Smith as well. But the way the fuel is limited in this league, they are limited to 6.2 gallons of fuel, and that's good for about 30 minutes worth of driving on most tracks, as Andrus is really struggling now. He's going to make heavy contact there with Brandon Smith, and he's going to really be going for a wild ride there right in front of Eli Clough, Levi Powell, and who's that, Samuel Stoner. So they really had to check up. Doesn't look like a lot of damage to either car, but Andrus is really, really struggling with that car. Back to the fuel, though. 6.2 gallons is about 30 minutes worth of fuel. They will have to stop for fuel, and they need to take about a short 2 gallons, 1.9, 1.95 gallons, a short 2 gallons to make it to full race distance here. Eli Clough, what happened to him? The bumper from his car is gone. I wonder when that happened. We see him sliding around. A lot of battles going on here, back for 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th. So all these positions matter to these drivers.
Oh, they absolutely do. As we went over the points at the start, a little bit of a brush to the tire barrier back there. But as we went over the points at the start of the broadcast, every single division is up for grabs, right? Nobody has run away with it in any division. So if you're still in the game, you got to get every position. It doesn't matter if you're racing for 28th or 23rd or 1st or 2nd. Every single point might tally up at the end of the year. So these drivers can't get complacent. They can't say, oh, I'm in 20th. I guess I'm out of the game. Might as well just ride around. They're not going to do that. They're going to drive hard. They're going to get every position they can. as you can see by Levi Powell making a pass right here, trying to pick up another point.
I do have a bit of an update. There have been 2 drivers that have been handed drive-through penalties. The 249 and the 157 have both been issued drive-through penalties. Looks like they've already been served for incidents on track. So the eye in the sky is enforcing the rules around here. So we have seen some drive-through penalties in this race. Mike Neekum is one of them. And I'm trying to see who the other driver is. Was that Freddie Weaver? Scott Brooks. Sorry, Scott Brooks was the other driver that got issued a drive-through penalty. We see them. They're both way back now. At least they have somebody to drive with each other, but they are significantly behind the pack now.
Yeah, they are way back there for sure. And those penalties, they're hard to overcome. We've seen a lot of drive-through penalties here in the AMS series. And, you know, having 40-minute races and no cautions or anything to bunch the field up, really the only positions you're going to gain are what you can get on raw pace, which is generally a handful. And then if the other drivers suffer misfortune, then you might get around them there as well. But you got to stay in it because, as we were just talking about, every point matters. So even if you're just riding around, wait and see what happens to everybody else as we work our way down the straightaway into that banked turn 1. And that gap that we had for the lead where he was driving away with it, it has depleted once again, half a second now. It was up to 0.9 down to 0.5 between Sanchez and Henriquez. This battle continuing as well. But I'll tell you what, Taylor Ballant not allowing Henriquez to get away. Gotta wonder if Ballant's not a little bit quicker right now. He did pull up alongside. He did challenge for it earlier. He settled in single file, and then he's just kind of ridden here. And I gotta think maybe that is in his own best interest. He knows that I might be a little bit quicker, but trying to get around Henriquez is going to be detrimental. We both need to run down this leader. You can see the lap times on the scoring pylon. Taylor Ballant with a 150.2, Luis Henriquez 150.6, 150.3 out of our leader. Little bit of a shot there. I think there was some contact. Ballant's going to break loose. That's going to catch up Sudengay, but they sort it out somehow. And how does that happen, Randall? They didn't lose any time.
It never ceases to amaze me how these guys can drive this close and not end in absolute disaster and race the way they race and not seem to lose much time. These guys are on another level. This was a 5-car breakaway. It's now turned into a 4-car breakaway as Evan Hubchak has had an issue at some point and fallen off, but that's kind of allowing Neil Kemp to catch up to Evan, so he might fall back into the clutches of the second pack, maybe try to bring that second pack closer to the lead pack. And after the pit cycle, we might see that gap go away, but I think we're only going to see that gap get bigger. Currently, Samuel Stoner and Eli Clough both being investigated for an incident that happened. I have not seen a ruling on that yet. We're seeing a battle here. Taylor Ballant going to go to the inside of turn 1 on Luis Henriquez, and he's going to get the move done finally. So maybe lulled Luis to sleep a little bit here. Got the move done in turn 1. Didn't give up much time. They're still right there on Jack's rear bumper, and Luis is not going to be too game to get this spot back. He's going to play the patience game for a while, I think. As long as you're in contact with the leaders, you're in a good situation here. But Taylor Ballant is not going to be patient. He is going for that lead right now.
Well, I guess that answers that. I wondered if Taylor Ballant was a little bit quicker and he was just trapped behind Henriquez. Well, the second he got around Henriquez, he surged forward, made the move for the lead. New race leader, Taylor Ballant in that 21. Not without challenge. Sanchez not letting him drive off into the sunset, but for now, it is a clear road ahead for Ballant. Now, these drivers, David Fench trying to hold off a little bit of an attack there from Ryan Campbell. Does a good job, pulls away a little bit in that corner. Now, I'm noticing, Randall, that these drivers are really using up the track limits here. They're really riding these curbs in certain corners. And I know that the curbs at each track are a little bit different. You've got more experience on iRacing than I do. What are the curbs like at this track? What are they feeling when they hop over these curbs?
In the Mustang, they're hardly feeling anything at all. These curves may as well not exist. If you hit some of the bigger sausage curves, like we see there on the entrance to the chicane, you feel it a little bit. But for the most part, these cars do not notice these curbs even a little bit. It feels like a speed bump at worst. And for the most part, it actually helps some of these drivers turn the car in because it'll really load up the front end. But it's not one of those courses where you need to really be concerned with the curves as much. As we see an Iberian snake forming ahead, here of Sosnowski, the leaders trying to break the slipstream up, but it's not working. And it looks like Evan Hubchak has rejoined that lead group. So that movement out of Belant has kind of brought that top 5 back together. Neil Kemp not able to make good on the opportunity to close that gap up. So Hubchak has found some pace here in the past couple minutes. We are just about 15 minutes into this race. Another minute and a half will be 15 minutes in. The pit window is open. We won't really see anybody come this early for service typically, but the pit window is open. You expect to see at about the 25-minute mark, the pit road will get really busy, but proving me wrong, here's Dan O'Toole and Mark Royce both coming in for service.
Yeah, they're going to come in early, and it makes sense, I think, for some of these guys. We've seen traffic be a bit of an issue, not lap traffic necessarily, just racing in and amongst themselves for position. They've been bottlenecked a few times, so some of these drivers might say, hey, look, I want to come down pit road early. I want to get down here and come out into a clean track so that I can click off as many laps as I can and undercut the competition, which is exactly what they have done. So interesting. Usually we do not see drivers pit that early. You're exactly right about that. While we watch this battle for the lead, I want to bring up another topic of which I'm curious, Randall, because I know that iRacing has changed the way that grass and sand and debris gets kicked up onto the track, and it's supposed to affect grip levels now. And the reason I bring that up is because they are really kicking up the kitty litter here. Is that going to be at all affecting the racing surface?
It absolutely does. I was watching it during practice, and the outside of the chicane, the outside line of the chicane looked like a second gravel trap. And anytime anybody got a little bit wide in that corner, where they were already struggling for rear end grip, they were completely losing it. So you see it building up there on the exit, or on the high side of turn 1 and a bit on the exit there. You're going to see it in a few places around the track. It's not as thick around the outside of the chicane as I had expected it to be at this point in the race, but give it some more time. We haven't seen too many people go too far into the gravel there, that all it really takes is one, and then it just starts coming onto the track, and it just keeps coming. And it can feel almost like you're out there in the rain sometimes if you get out there on that gravel, especially if there's a bunch of rubber buildup out there too. It'll really catch you off guard. So some of those places where there's gravel, it will absolutely affect how these cars handle.
That's interesting. I was always curious about whether or not that update really did what it was intended to do. I don't drive on the surface that much, but they are definitely kicking up a lot of sand on this race, more than usual, which is why I got curious about that. So that's really interesting, and that is going to change this track dynamically throughout the entire course of this event. So that is very cool to see as these guys try to navigate it. But as we go on board, you'll be able to see the sand that they're kicking up firsthand as they go as wide as they can on corner exit. And through this chicane here, you can see it's building up just a little bit. Luis Enriquez dipping his tires into it almost seemed to help him turn a little bit better, getting his tires in that sand. But again, that's a risky game. Got to be careful there as they navigate through this right-hander. And again, I mean, just it's a fine line. They're using up everything on the racing surface and then some.
Absolutely. And it seems really hit or miss where the gravel gets pulled onto the track. Some places you see them running off onto the gravel, like the space between turn 13 and 14, you see them hitting the gravel a lot, and there's not a lot of it pulled on track. We don't see a lot of people in the gravel on the outside of turn 1, but there's a bunch of gravel out there. So it's a new feature. It's a relatively new feature in the sim. They are always refining these things, so it will get better over time. When it first hit the service, there was a lot of complaints about it. It was pure chaos. Once any bit of gravel got on the track, it was just completely covering the track for the entire race. It's gotten much better since then. We're seeing some more action in pit lane. Matthew goes into Andrew Bailing, both coming in for service. And who's that also pulling out? Couldn't tell who that was pulling out. But this lead right now, Taylor Belant leading the way still. And he's looking very fast. But to my eye, Andre, it looks like he might be overdriving the car just a little bit to keep that pace up. And I suspect that he's not going to be able to keep it up for the entire 40 minutes going the way he has been.
I have to agree. I did notice a couple laps ago when they were going through that banked turn 2, he did dip his right sides over the edge of that banking, and it cost him a little bit of time. Jack Sanchez nearly pulled up alongside him. In fact, I think Sanchez might have slowed down a little bit and cut him a break there to not get alongside him. He didn't want to take the bottom line on that corner. And that is indicative to me of somebody who's just really driving this car as hard as he can, going into the corner with exceptional speed. And that'll work for a little while, but tires do heat up and tires do wear, and mistakes can be made when you're driving at the limit 24/7. So, you got to be careful of it, but at the same time, you can't blame Taylor Ballant. He's somewhat new to the league, I believe, this season. He is full-time, but this is his first season from what I recall, and he's not been to victory lane yet. Now he finds himself in position where he is currently leading the points leader. He is in a really good opportunity here, and he can't waste it. If he's got to drive a little bit beyond the limit, then that's just what he's got to do.
Let me speak from experience. There's nothing more scary in one of these Mustangs than seeing Jack Sanchez in your rearview mirror. The man knows how to drive. He is intimidating because he is so aggressive. And I've gushed about him a few times over the past few weeks as we see Matt Thompson and Chuck Labano, teammates in the pits right now, coming in at the same time. I wonder if they're working together. I've gushed a bit about Jack Sanchez, but ever since he's gotten that #1 plate on that Mustang, he has been a changed man. The way that he drives now is much more cerebral, and I think once he felt the pressure from Ballant, he just kind of let him go, and he's in a position now where he's able to maybe save some fuel and force Ballant to maybe overdrive a little bit, keeping that pressure on him so that come the end of the race, he won't really be much of a challenge. So I think Sanchez is playing the long game here. I think Luis is also doing the same thing. Sudengate has been doing it the entire time. So we'll see how this all shakes out. But Jack Sanchez, he's still got the aggression that he's had all along, but it's been tempered. And the way that he's been driving this season is phenomenal. It's a real championship drive. And I won't be at all surprised if he defends his championship this season.
Yeah, we have not seen dominance like this since the days of Euro Nam. Generally, victory lane had a rotating, revolving door of drivers. We'd see a new winner every week, but seems like recently Jack Sanchez is just the man to beat. Obviously, Henriquez does have a win on the season as well, but if you want to win, you got to get past that #1 car, and that's what Ballant has done for the time being. But here's another battle for position. You got Charlie Hosey leading Ryan Campbell, and Campbell's going to make his way down pit road. Another somewhat early adopter of this pit lane. Going to bring it on down to acceptable speeds, get this car serviced. Doubt we're going to see any jack stands go up. Probably just a quick fuel and go. We'll watch him pull into his stall. Does it go up? No, sir. Going to stay on all 4 tires, which goes to show they're prioritizing the temperatures, I think, a little bit here.
A couple moments ago, we did see Mike Neekum in the pit lane, and I did see the car go onto the jacks for that pit stop. So Mike Neekum was taking tires. We see another battle here. Freddie Weaver and Dave Blair currently embroiled in a battle, and not quite for the amateur lead. Tom Wendt has got that firmly in hand right now, but this is a big fight for points. These two involved in points battle in the amateur division. Right now, Freddie Weaver getting the better of Dave Blair. Dave Blair is basically a shoe-in every season for the Clean Driver Championship in the amateur division as well. Very clean driver. He prefers cleanliness over speed. Most of the time, he will sacrifice a little bit of speed to make sure he keeps it clean. Always a gentleman, Mr. Dave Blair. You see, he's currently the amateur points division, or the amateur division points leader. And I'm seeing some stuff being investigated. Andrew Bailey, Brandon Smith, and Ryan Campbell being investigated right now. So still some incidents happening on track. I know that Ryan Campbell had just come out of the pit lane, so I wonder if there was a bit of a kerfuffle there early in the lap. See if we can find a replay. We might not have one, so it may have been a very minor altercation. Jeremy Ritchie, we're going to get a look at it here.
That's Campbell coming out of pit road. He does have some traffic on the blend line. Seems to merge okay. Does cut down in front of one other driver. Some contact there between the cars ahead. Yeah, that is unfortunate. But I don't see how Campbell was really involved. He just kind of drove around it.
It looked like maybe he got a minor tertiary incident there. As we see, we've had a move for the lead. Jack Sanchez back in the lead over Taylor Ballant. I wonder if Jack Sanchez went for this move or if maybe Ballant made a mistake. We're going to pull up a replay of this pass here very shortly, and we're going to see exactly what happened. Sanchez is going to make the move to the inside on turn 1. He's been pushing Ballant down the straightaway. Ballant was doing a lot of the weaving to try to break up the slipstream. And Jack kept giving him shots in the rear bumper to say, hey, I'll push you, quit weaving. And then he quits weaving, and Jack Sanchez goes for the kill.
Yeah, he was definitely bump drafting down the straightaway, and I think it kind of goes back to what you were theorizing earlier, Randall, with Taylor Ballant just driving a little bit too hard. Maybe not necessarily that he even wore his tires out quicker, just that he was heating them up, because he was sliding through the corners a lot, definitely driving into the corners a little bit deeper, and that tire temp definitely matters for corner speed. And I think Jack Sanchez was able to get such a good exit onto that straightaway that it aided his slipstream and his effort to get around him on the straightaway with a good run. And yeah, that wheel spin. If your tires are hot, you can't get out of the corner, which means you're not carrying much speed down the straightaway. Because when we get to these low speed sections, Taylor Ballant seems to be right on pace. He's right equal with them. And I got to point out as well, it has been 24 minutes of racing now on the dot. These four drivers are still bumper to bumper. They've not left each other this entire time. That is really impressive.
It is impressive, and Luke Sudengay has been sitting there in 4th position. We saw Evan Hoopchak. He's been in 5th most of the race. He fell off the back of that lead group and was able to close that gap back up, and then he's fallen back once again, and now they're dealing with some lap traffic in the form of Scott Brooks. Scott's leaving a car's width and not much more as Neil Kemp tries to get that move done in turn 1. He's going to eventually make his way around, and Scott Brooks is going to do a little bit to get out of the way here. This is a good opportunity to surrender a couple corners and let some of these faster guys by. Scott Brooks not very interested in it, though. He's going to keep his foot in it and make Dave Moore really work for that overtake on the blue flag car. They are advised that the blue flag is informational only, and that the primary responsibility of a car that has the blue flag is to be predictable. And the best way to be predictable is to run the racing line, run your race, and make the faster guys go around you. So Scott Brooks not really doing anything wrong here, but Dave Moore might have some things to say to him after the race.
He definitely might. Pit road getting busy. 25 minutes into this event, you can see numerous cars pulling in, pulling out. Tom Wendt making his way onto the merge, and he's going to have a little bit of traffic to contend with here side by side. Never an ideal situation, but he should be able to fall in line right behind Dan Ott here, and he will. So that was timed pretty well. Always nice to have a mouse to chase, as you could say. Whenever you come out of the pits, you got somebody to follow, somebody to kind of give you a rolling braking point to get them tires back up to temp. But more drivers making their way out of the pits. Got to be very careful on that white line. If you go over it, you are going to get a penalty, and that's a sharp corner. Randall, I can imagine that's pretty easy to overdrive and just barely dip the tires over.
Yeah, it's something they definitely will want to have practiced. So if they didn't practice, they might find themselves kicking themselves in the butts for not actually getting that practice in. And we see the leader. Here comes the leaders. All the leaders except for Luis Enriquez coming into the pits right now. Look at all the cars coming into pit lane. Jack Sanchez leading the way, and then it's an absolute traffic jam getting into pit lane as the rest of the top 10 comes in. And oh, I'm sorry, Taylor Ballant's also stayed out. So Ballant and Enriquez both have stayed out and are able to save enough fuel, or possibly just playing the longer game. Sanchez is going to lead the way off pits. So he and Sudengay are going to get back going once again. We'll see how this all shakes out. Well, we expect to see Ballant, Enriquez, and Schnackle and all the other drivers that have stayed out here over the next coming laps. Looking at the pit stop times now, we're looking at anywhere from 12.8 seconds to as much as 16 seconds. So a big mix of strategies right now. Jack Sanchez with a 1285 is one of the faster ones. Luke Sudengay 300s faster. David Finch was stopped only for 11.6 seconds. So earmark him for the Thompson Trophy for fuel management here. We'll see if he has to get a stop coming in for a splash and go. But you're seeing a big range of numbers here on the pit stop time on the timing tower right now. That was just the time that they were in their box. You see Freddie Weaver currently in his box. Total pit lane time is a different story. Jack Sanchez was still 0.2 faster than Luke Sudengay. And then you see these other drivers that pitted out of the top 10 with the much slower times coming in with a big group of traffic like that. You have to check up way more. You're not able to attack nearly as much. We're going to jump to the leaders here. Ballant and Enriquez coming through turn 13 now. Will they dip into the pit lane this time by? Maybe stay out. Luis Enriquez definitely in a position where he could have saved enough fuel. Ballant is going to be running on fumes here pretty soon. He's going to drive towards pit lane. Does Enriquez stay out? Or no, Enriquez is going to follow him right in. So the lead pair come in. We'll see how this shakes out. We'll be looking for Jack Sanchez to come out of turn 14. A couple of other drivers, looks like Chad Sosnowski, Jeff Schnackle, going to be coming into pit lane as well. We'll see where the leaders come out. and we'll have a race possibly coming off turn one.
Yeah, it's going to be a race. I'm a little bit surprised we're not seeing the jack stands go up on Taylor Ballant's car. I really feel like he's abusing those tires. He's been driving so hard. I've noticed him go into four-wheel slides time and time again, but he is going to lose this position to Luis Henriquez just a little bit longer in the stall. Look at that, though. Jack Sanchez on the outside of the screen there. He is going to cycle out right next to Henriquez. He should have a better run. Henriquez dips his tires over the line. I'm not sure if that was past the point of what iRacing considers a penalty. We'll find out, but either way, Sanchez is going to cycle out into P1.
Do not see a black flag currently for Luis Enriquez, so he might have gotten away with one there. It looked to me like he may have backed out a little bit to let Sanchez have the lead there. I'm going to look at his stop time. He was stopped for 11 and a half seconds, so he had a pretty quick pit stop time. He was in a good position to save a lot of fuel, so I don't think that he's going to be too worried about fuel management here. And if he is, he's going to get it done early. Then maybe why he let Sanchez go. But Sudengay is moved up to third. He is all over this pair as well. Ballant is still there in contact in fourth, but not nearly as close as they all were before. And it looks like he's kind of struggling right now. We see them fanning out here in the top three so close together that they have to take alternate lines through some of these corners to stay off of each other. That's going to bring Ballant back into the fight. But does Ballant have the goods, do you think?
Well, it's going to be tough. Again, I really feel like he is abusing that car. You can see him cranking on the wheel, turning it well beyond the 90-degree radius there. Generally, if you're turning the wheel that far, that car is not turning very well, and I think that's a result of just burning up those front tires, making the car a little bit tighter than it needs to be. And it's a shame because he has such a lot of speed here, but I think that when he had that lead, you pointed it out, Sanchez was pressuring him, making him overdrive, and now he might be paying the toll for that. As Sanchez leads the way, Henriquez P2, Luke Sudengay on the podium. How many podiums does Sudengay have versus wins? This is a guy who's always so close. He's not going to want to be a bridesmaid tonight, not when he's got a car that fast.
He's been fast all night, too. He was challenging for the pole position in qualifying. He's one of the fastest drivers. As Ballant's going to go for a move on the inside of Sudengay. Not going to be able to quite get it done. That difference in banking making all the difference there, and Sudengay was able to get the better run off the corner and retain that position. Luke was one of the fastest drivers in qualifying, one of the fastest drivers in the practice session, one of the fastest drivers here in the race. He's going to be hungry for this win tonight. I think you're right. We're going to take a little bit of a look back through the field. Back in P8, Jeff Schnackle is leading the way in the Challenger division, back to his true form of being really strong and punching a bit above his weight in front of the likes of Dave Moore and David Finch. So seeing him flex his muscles for one of the first times this season. Your Challenger division points leader, Brian Campbell, is in second place in division back in P12. And then we're going to go back all the way to 21st position to see Tom Wendt, who is leading the way in the amateur division. And he's got a couple cars between himself and Eli Kloft, who's in second. And back in 27th, Dave Blair is your amateur points division leader. So kind of give you a look at where the other divisions are, where the other races are developing, where the points leaders are. But of course, in the pro division, Jack Sanchez leading the way, leading the race, leading the points, leading everything this season. Jack Sanchez, as we see a big battle here, and that's Fabian Zweyer, David Finch there behind Jeff Schnackle. Looks like Schnackle had a bit of a checkup and let Dave Moore go by, and Dave Moore is driving off quickly.
Yeah, David Moore is definitely a hot lapper. I feel like when he needs to, he can put together lap times faster than anybody. And when he needs to get on the offensive, that comes in handy. He might not carry that pace throughout the whole race, but every now and again, you're looking at that number 13 of David Moore, and he just rips off a lap like nobody's business, and you're thinking, how did he do that? Well, that's what he's doing right now. And David Moore, I think, as he continues to race in this league, he's going to be somebody to continue to watch, because I think he's going to be a future winner for sure. Just the pace that he can show. If he could just string together more of those hot laps. And right now, having a good points day up inside the top 10. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he might have a pole in this league at some point, somewhere. Maybe I'm misremembering. But either way, he is pulling away from Jeff Schnackle in that number 9. Like you said, Schnackle kind of punching above his weight. He's got a bit of a gap to Ryan Campbell, the next car in his division. Tom Wendt, the first amateur driver currently. I'm not sure if he's been down pit road yet, but he is in 21st. And just so much battling all over this track. We predicted it was going to put on a really good show, give us a good product, and so far it's almost difficult up in the booth, Randall, because there's just so many battles to focus on and only two of us.
Absolutely. We see lots of cars struggling for grip. Jeff Schnackle struggling for grip there and going to maybe give up another spot here to Fabian Zweyer. We have 6.5 minutes left in this race, and some of these drivers can tell you it feels like it's another 6.5 hours with the amount of trouble they're having with grip. Some of them have driven the rubber off of these tires and feel like they're driving on an ice rink right now. Schnackle trying to deal with a car that does not have a lot of grip and defend at the same time. So far doing a good job, but Fabian Zweyer really applying the pressure. Fabian, another quick driver who I'm a little shocked to see this far down the order after his times in practice. He's going to go for a move on the inside here. Dave Finch is going to follow him. He says, I wanted the spot too. Schnackle's going to be caught on the outside. He may give up 2 spots here. The banking might help him a little bit. He's going to run extra wide, and he's going to get a little bit loose, and he's really going to have to back out of it. Finch even had to take evasive maneuvers to stay away from Schnackle. They're going to go, looked like maybe a little bit of contact as they went through turn 3. Nothing coming of it, though. Dave Finch now the next up to try to punch his card on Jeff Schnackle to get that spot away from him. Schnackle really struggling for grip here, and he's going to be quickly falling back into the clutches of Ryan Campbell if this goes on much longer.
Yeah, if they keep battling, they are going to fall into the clutches of the cars behind. It's tough to fight that hard and not give up that time. But back to this lead pack. Taylor Ballant got back to P3, took it from Luke Sudengay. Now he is applying the pressure to Luis Henriquez for second place. We do have a replay of how this happened. We saw this live earlier from the blimp cam, and that's what I was reacting to when it happened live. I saw Sudengay go off the banking, and I thought when that happened, surely he was going to go right into that Armco, but somehow he kept it down low and got back on the racing surface, which did allow Jack Sanchez to pull away a little bit, but that advantage has long since gone away because they're right back with him. A lot of slipstream on this track, which is going to make it difficult to maintain any sort of advantage that you really build up, as long as they stay within that distance. But as these three battle, look at this, Sanchez again stretching his legs these last few corners.
Ballant may have overdriven that car a bit earlier, but it looks like he's still got something in it because he is on the all-out attack. He's showing the nose to Luis Enriquez. Now he's going to fall back in line, not go for the move, but here comes Luke Sudengay. He's going to get a nose to the inside, and he has to take evasive maneuvers. Wasn't quite there enough, so he had needed to back out. He did back out, so no harm, no foul there. It's going to cost him a little bit of time. He's going to have to regather himself and try to attack again, but Ballant is on the charge right now. Does he have enough time left, though? We just have under 4 minutes. We're serving lap 21 of 22, so there'll be 2 laps to go the next time they cross the stripe. Sanchez with a bit of a gap, 0.7 seconds over Luis Enriquez. Luis Enriquez with a little bit of breathing room right now, going to try to close that gap down over the next couple corners, and he's doing a good job of it. He's already cut it down to 0.4. So Luis Enriquez has something in that car, and if he's been doing any fuel management, he's done with it now, and he's ready to go after Sanchez.
Yeah, it's not the time for fuel management. We are 36 minutes and 42 seconds into this race. We have less than 4 minutes remaining, which is only going to be a couple of laps here at Zandvoort. So it is go time. Here's another battle for P12. That is Jay Bass and Ryan Campbell going at it, bumper to bumper. They are in separate divisions. Of course, Campbell a challenger and Jay Bass a pro, but nonetheless trying to claim some points here. Jeff Schnackle still leading the way as far as challengers are concerned. He's in P10. Tom Wendt with a comfortable lead in the amateur division. They're in 21st. But I'll tell you what, look at that timing and scoring. 0.2 of a second now. The difference between Sanchez and Enriquez, that is on the bumper. That is basically nothing. Now these three have broken away a little bit from Luke Sudengay. He's got about 0.6 of a second deficit.
Oh, Sanchez is into the pits. Sanchez into the pits. No. He's going to get the Thompson Trophy for fuel management. It is surely not a drive-through penalty for incidents. He's going to have to come for a splash of gas. It almost certainly must be. Yes, he's going to pull into his box. Oh, Absolutely, we haven't seen a mistake out of Sanchez all season, and here's the first one, and he's going to get himself the Thompson Trophy for fuel management. David Finch also in, I believe I had him earmarked earlier, so good call by me if that's true. Sanchez is going to come out, and this is going to be an abysmal finish for him as he's all the way back now in P14, maybe possibly P15. That's going to give the race lead to Luis Enriquez, and Taylor Bland's like, now there's only one car to go, and I got this.
Yeah, Taylor Ballant has made this pass once before. Now he's got to do it when it counts. But look at how hard he is cranking on that wheel. He's got that thing turned so sharp through the corner. It's crazy. But that is, I had to wonder when it was going to happen with Sanchez, because routinely this year, Sanchez has had some of the fastest pit stops, and every single time he's gotten away with it. This time, though, it bit him. So that is going to be a rough points day. It's going to allow the competition. That's what the competition wanted to see. It's going to let them close up for sure. Riding on board with second place Taylor Ballant, this is the gap. I mean, about a minute and 12 seconds remaining. They are on the clock. He's got to make the move at the first possible opportunity through the chicane now, keeping it down low through the sand. He's going to gain a little bit here. Might not get the best run down this straightaway, though, as the wider arc that Henriquez took carries more speed. But either way, they're going to come together in the apex of this corner. And I don't know, they're so evenly paced. I can't say with any certainty that Ballant has this move in him, but I mean, it's going to be close. We're going to take the white flag this time. One more time around, can he do it?
Gonna have to get it done this lap, and they're gonna have some lap traffic to deal with, so this could be getting very interesting. We'll see if the lap traffic plays nice with the leaders, but they're under no obligation to get out of the way. Right now, it looks like a little bit of contact there to the rear bumper of Luis Enriquez. Luis also had a very fast pit time. He was in a good position to save fuel, but maybe fuel's gonna be coming into play. Ballant's gonna go deep inside, and there's gonna be contact. He's gonna check up and let Luis get going again. Sudengay is gonna find his way to the lead. Finally, Sudengay, always a bridesmaid, never a bride. He has got now 2-second lead. He's going to run away with this. Ballant does the sporting thing and lets Luis back by, so he's going to try to get him again cleanly this time, but it all fell apart there in turn 4. Doesn't look like any damage on either car, but Ballant again does the sporting thing. We're going to see him dive to the inside here. Luis doesn't go all the way up to the white line, but doesn't have to either. In the come together, Luis does a really, really good job of saving that car. Luke Sudengay does a phenomenal job of driving around the pair of them to get that lead, and he is off to the races. He is off to get his first win in the American Muscle Series. As long as he has enough fuel in that car, we're going to be keeping our fingers crossed for Luke Sudengay as he's approaching the chicane. He's gotten past Mike Neekum. He's got Scott Brooks ahead of him. Shouldn't be too much problems. Just a couple more corners to go for Luke Sudengay as he approaches turn 13. Is he going to be able to make it on fuel, or will he start sputtering here anytime now? Sounds good. It doesn't sound like he's waiting or saving any fuel at all. Completely on the throttle as he comes through Ari Lyondike turn, and is going to see that checkered flag waving in the air from Barney. He's going to cross the line. Luke Sudengay going to be your surprise winner here in the American Muscle Series at Zandvoort. Luke Sudengay finally gets himself to the top step of that podium.
Oh, you'll love to see it. I mean, he's been on that podium so many times, and it's just never been the top step. And the night all the pieces fell together. And I got to give a big shout out to Taylor Ballant. Look, he did not mean to get into Henriquez. That was plain as day. He drove it in deep. He tried to make a move. It didn't work. And then he checked up, right? He could have drove off into the sunset. He could have tried to fight Luke Sudengay for the lead, but he didn't. He got on the brakes. He let Luis Enriquez get back in front of him. Unfortunately, it cost them both a chance at the win, but if you're going to make a mistake, owning up to it and being a sportsman like that is about the best way to handle it. There goes Tom Wendt for the amateur win as well. Schnackle actually wound up with some challenge for his division win there in Challenger, because Ryan Campbell gained a couple positions up to P10. But yeah, look at this. Luke Sudengay, he is going to burn this thing to the ground. There's not going to be a speck of rubber left on those tires, and there is not going to be any fuel left in that Mustang by the time he is done celebrating.
All I do is win, 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 no matter what.
Luke Sudengay is finally going to drive that car into the winner's circle. I am so excited. This guy, I've watched this guy get faster and faster week by week, season by season. and he is absolutely killing it. So happy to see him as a new winner in the American Muscle Series. And you were absolutely right about the way that incident happened in turn 4. You have to race for it. You have to go for it. You have to make something happen. Taylor Ballant was just trying to make something happen. Luis probably could have given a little bit more space. I've raced with Luis enough to know that he's not going to be terribly upset by that. And the fact that Taylor waited for him says everything you need to know about the community here in the American Muscle Series. Everything that you need to know. And Luis got that car going again. They were able to fight it out for the rest of the lap. Luke was able to drive around them and come off with a brilliant win. And this is exactly what I've hoped to see in every race for the American Muscle Series. This is the league that I wanted to cultivate, and this is what we got, and I'm just so happy to see it happen.
Yeah, I think we're all pretty happy to see it happen. It's just one of those situations where he's come so close so many times, and you just had to wonder when it was finally going to happen. When is he going to get that monkey off his back, and when are the pieces going to fall together? Well, that was tonight at Zandvoort, and you can't say that he lucked into it either. I mean, yes, Jack Sanchez under fuel. Yes, there was contact between Enriquez and Ballant, but to say that he lucked into it is not even remotely accurate when you consider the fact that he was running lap times identical with all of the drivers who made mistakes. He was right there with them the entire 40 minutes of this event. The only difference between him and the other drivers is that they made mistakes, he didn't. So he was the best man tonight.
I've heard luck defined is when preparation meets opportunity, and that's exactly what happened for Luke Sudengay tonight. We're going to try to get those official results up for you here as soon as we can. We have a couple cars on track still making their way to the pit lane. A bit of a crash fest. Everybody letting their hair down after the race is over. Some burnout still going on. Eli Clough making his way back to his pit stall. But what an absolutely amazing race. A very rare mistake out of Jack Sanchez. He'll be kicking himself. He's been playing it so good this season at getting those fuel numbers just right. I wonder if maybe he got caught out by the pace of the other drivers and it went one lap longer than possibly he had calculated for, and he had to come in for a splash and go. It does get him the Thompson Trophy for fuel management. Adam, if you're out there, we're still calling it that. I don't care how much you complain. The Thompson Trophy for fuel management comes from the one time that Adam Thompson mismanaged his fuel. Adam Thompson, former owner of Slow Motion Broadcasting, mismanaged his fuel in one race, and we have not quit letting him hear about it ever since. We even named the trophy after him. So hopefully we get those standings up anytime now. I'm hearing we're maybe having some technical issues with the standings coming up, so I'm just going to go from the timing screen and start reading. But your race winner today, Luke Sudengay, P2, Luis Henriquez, P3, Taylor Ballant, P4, Chad Sosnowski. What an improvement, up 6 spots. His second race in the series, and he's really stamping his name on it very well. P5, Evan Hubchak, that's where he was all race, and that's where he finished. Neil Kemp in 6th place. Dave Moore comes home 7th. Fabian Zweyer in 8th. 9th place, Jeff Schnackle. Ryan Campbell is going to round out your top 10. Jeff Schnackle, your Challenger Division winner, by the way.
And looking at the scoring pylon as well, because I don't have the timing pulled up. Jay Bass going to be P11. Looks like Taco Phil is going to be P12. Jack Sanchez rallies back to 13th after falling to 15th with that fuel mishap. And then you have Matt Thompson in P14. Aaron That Face Bray going to bring it home inside the top 15. Levi Powell is going to be 16th. David Finch P17 to Han 02, top half of the field P18. Matthew Guzane to 19th, and 20th just disappeared. There it is. Tom Went P20.
Tom Went, your amateur division winner, and then Charlie Hosey going to end up in 21st. He was down 9 spots, so something happened to him there at the end of the race. Possibly, it looks like he had to come in for a splash and go as well. Mark Royce finishing 22nd. 23rd, Sam Stoner, 24th. Kevin Buckholz, Freddie Weaver in 25th. Eli Cloft, 26th. 27th, Chuck Labano, 28th. Dave Blair up 10 spots from where he qualified. Brandon Smith, 29th. 30th, Sean Johnson, 31st. Scott Brooks. Mike Neekum comes home 32nd he and Scott Brooks both got drive-through penalties in this race, so decent recovery run out of both of them. Jay Little in 33rd, Andrew Bailing comes home 34th, and Ed Sanchinelli, who we saw have problems and make heavy contact with the barrier on the exit of the chicane, ended up retiring the car, is going to be classified in 35th. Andy Smith 36th, Joe Sacchetti, who we saw out of the race pretty early, finishes 37th, and Jeff Andrus, who we saw having a lot of problems out there, going to come home classified 38th. John Casey 39th, and rounding out the field, Stephen Price in 40th. So a big field here today. Survival was the name of the game, and it came down to a couple mistakes up front, but none other than Luke Sudengay comes home with his first win in the American Muscle Series. Luke, luck is where preparation meets opportunity. You were there, bud. Tell us about that move at the end of the race.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I was just kind of biding my time the whole race, and guess just kind of hoping for an opportunity just like that, and there it was.
So were you seeing dollar signs when that happened?
No, well, yeah, kind of actually. I knew Taylor was a little aggressive through there, so when I saw him racing Henriquez, I was hopeful.
So you were fast all day, so it wasn't like you just lucked into this. You were in contact with that lead group. Were you feeling racy at all? Like, were you looking to punch your way up there in the closing stages, or were you just kind of waiting for something to happen?
After the pit stop, I was feeling a little racy, especially when I noticed Sanchez starting to fuel save, it seemed like. So yeah, I was kind of trying to get around some people, but just in the places I was faster than them were like the toughest places to pass, so I just couldn't make anything happen.
Well, I've watched you improve over the past few seasons in this series, and I'm glad to finally see you punching your way into a win. Before we let you go celebrate, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Oh, I'd like to thank my wife and son watching upstairs. Man, they're so supportive. Love you guys.
Well, congratulations, Luke, and hopefully we get to talk to you again real soon. This is awesome watching you win a race finally.
Gosh, I really hope so. Thanks a lot, guys.
That was your race winner and Pro Division winner, luckiest man alive right now, Luke Sudengay, with a big win. And Andre, who have you tracked down?
Well, I believe I have found the Challenger Division winner. We actually got it right this weekend, mainly because I didn't do it. Jeff Schnackle, I believe. We can pull him in. There we go. Mr. Schnackle, you got a copy?
Yeah, good evening, guys. How's it going?
It's going pretty good, but even better for you. Top 10 finish and a division win for that number 124 machine. Tell you what, this has been a very fun race at Zandvoort from up in the booth, but how was it from your perspective?
Oh, it was great. Definitely a tricky technical course. I really felt the tires there after the pit stop started washing out on some of the corners, so it made it pretty difficult to hit your marks. But the racing on track was great, and I definitely recommend it for to be on the schedule again.
Yeah, it absolutely was great. Now, one thing we noticed, and we talked about it on the broadcast, was the sand you guys were kicking up. You guys were really using up the track limits, and the track was kind of changing a little bit dynamically throughout the event. How much did you notice the track kind of evolve throughout the race, and how much did it affect your driving style?
I didn't notice too much. In open practice was definitely really bad. Kind of going through that right kink into a smaller bowl section before the final two corners. So luckily people kind of kept it on track there. So I didn't really impact my race a whole lot, luckily.
Absolutely. Now, this was the final race in the first half of the season. Going into the second half, how confident are you? Second verse, same as the first? Going to continue this points lead?
I mean, we'll see. Definitely can't get too confident anything can happen in this series, so just gotta keep putting my head down, keep hitting my marks, and really work to keep achieving those podiums.
I like that mindset. Getting too confident, definitely not something you want to do when you got this much competition. But so far, you've been on the ball, and we look forward to seeing what you can do in the next half of the season. Thank you for your time, Jeff. We'll hopefully be talking to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Have a great night.
All right, Challenger winner out of the booth. And now I believe Randall is caught up with the amateur winner, Tom Went.
That I have. Tom Went brings home in the amateur division win. Tom, tell us what it was like out there for you tonight.
Man, I don't even remember at this point. No, it was hot, greasy, fun. I was probably the least amount of words I've said during a race in chat. It was intense, to say the least.
That leads perfectly into my next question. How many pounds did you lose tonight in sweat? Because it looked like some of you guys were really struggling for grip back there.
So yeah, about after the pit stop, I was losing. The rear tires were just gone. But I've been working with Jay Bast and Frito Sport guys with staying in fourth all the way through that back section down the hill after the bowl, fourth and into third. And basically it was just, it started sliding a little bit more and more, but I just didn't want to give up the pace I had. So it was a struggle, but I never got too squirrely for me this week. So that was, and the wrecks seemed to happen either behind me or well enough in front of me that I didn't get tied up in them.
So Andre gave me an excellent question to ask. We asked this of the Challenger winner. So we're going to ask you, this is the end of the first half of the season. How are you feeling looking forward to the second half of the season? Do you have anything in it for Dave Blair?
I sure as hell hope so. I didn't put in 200 practice laps in this race not to go for it. So he's going to be tough to beat. He has got to be one of the most safest and secure drivers. He doesn't mess up. So he lets you mess up and he'll pass you and just wave at you as he goes by. And he's a nice guy. And if I do lose, I couldn't lose to a better person, but I want to give him a fight. That's for damn sure.
Well, glad to hear it. And hopefully you can take it to him. Hopefully this is not the last time we talk to you this season, Tom.
I hope so. It's been, I was thinking about that this morning. I've been here since season 1 and I was an official road hazard with a flag man my first couple of seasons. And it just, thank you to the guys and everything like that. It's just been a lot of hard work.
So before we let you go celebrate, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out? Maybe one of your 35 kids?
Well, obviously my wife and my 6 kids, they are the life of my life. And I thank them because, my wife lets me, I get 2 nights a week to race. It's Tuesday night and Thursday night. So I appreciate that from her. And she takes care of them and I put them to bed with their cowbells. So I know they're not coming up the stairs. And I definitely want to thank, Frito Sport, Jay Bast, a joke, but the Frito Sport Itty Bit Better Homebrew Auto Mustang really pulled it through today. But without those guys, I wouldn't be here. And they work with me. Jay got in the car with me a couple nights ago and literally just watched my turns, and he just pointed out a couple little areas where I could do a little bit different here, a little tweak there. And I went from running 153s to 152s down to 151s, and that's what you needed to do. So I appreciate you for putting on a great show. The broadcast is always amazing as always, and I hope to talk to you guys again.
Well, congratulations, and hopefully, like I said, we'll get to talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Amateur division winner Tom Went, prolific father, among other things, and an excellent golfer, I've been told. But that's kind of going to put a wrap on the race tonight. Andre, what an event we had. I think they're right. I think this maybe needs to make its way back onto the schedule again.
Yeah, I would love to see it. Obviously, if there were an admin in the booth right now, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, I would say it probably should come back, but that's just a commentator's perspective. This was a phenomenal race. Like I said, there was so much going on, it was almost difficult for us to really keep track of everything going on, which is a good problem to have, right? It's a great problem to have. And to see Luke Sudengay get his first win after all this time, you'll love to see it. Obviously, we feel for the drivers that came so close that he beat out tonight, but you gotta love to see somebody get their first win, especially somebody as deserving as Sudengay. Just a phenomenal night of racing.
Absolutely. Before we go off the air here, I'd like to shout out a couple of the community members within the American Muscle Series, also drivers. Aaron Bray, who helps us out with the points. Jeremy Ritchie, who's not been driving with us. He's been our eye in the sky and our chief steward. So thank you, Jeremy. And also a big shout out to Mike Neekum in the D-Nut Stuff Etsy shop. Mike is able to provide us with some awesome slate trophies for the winners of each division every season. They look phenomenal. If you want to get yourself one of those awesome slates, you can check out the D-Nut Stuff Etsy shop. He's got a lot of things on that shop around iRacing and sim racing in general. Get heel plates or heel plate covers for your car, for your sim setup, brake mods. You can get your PDFs made into slate trophies. It's awesome. He's got all kinds of things. So check out the D-Nut Stuff shop on Etsy. There should be a link down in that description. And we do have some other upcoming broadcasts over the course of the next week. The American Muscle Series will not be back next Tuesday. We take week 13 off, so we will not see the Mustangs again next week. But in 2 weeks' time, be back here for Road America. Should be an awesome race for these Mustangs here in the American Muscle Series on Tuesday nights. Wednesday nights, we have a double header. We have the Ray Esports Club Racing League and the Sim Racers Group going to be taking to the track both on Wednesday night. And then the weekend is absolutely jam-packed with action with the Weekend Warriors brought to you by Ray Esports. Saturdays, the Formula V's at 2:20 p.m. Eastern. Sundays, the Formula Fords at 12:45, and the not the Formula Fords, I just said that. The Spec Racer Fords right after them. You'll hear me on both of those this weekend. So come check them out. And then Sunday evening, Cross Series League Racing is back. I think they're still in the dirt oval section of their schedule. They run all 4 divisions. I believe I'm hearing that it's going to be Kokomo. It's probably the last week of the dirt oval section. They do, like I said, all 4 disciplines. So you have to be able to wheel everything. So they have Kokomo this week, and then the following week will be Eldora. Then they'll move on to a different discipline. So check out Cross Series League Racing Sunday evenings here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. And I think that's just about it. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us tonight here for the American Muscle Series at Zandvoort. We'll be gone next week. One last reminder, we won't be on the air next Tuesday, but we will be back the Tuesday after that for Round 7 at Road America. My name is Randall McGrew. I've been joined in the commentary booth by Andre Dirt Grandbouche and Josh Wilkie in the virtual production trailer on the buttons and knobs helping us out. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, get that notification bell clicked. Make sure you know every time Slow Motion Broadcasting goes live. Thank you and have a great night.